Hello, this is the second episode of About Worm, where I will be talking about all things worm. And today I will be talking about Fanon. But before I do so, let me put out a very, very, very big spoiler warning, because I am going to be examining character motivations and how the fandom interprets things. And so this will definitely spoil a few things. You've been warned. First, I should probably explain what Fanon exactly is. So Fanon is a portmanteau of canon and fan, and so it's sort of like the fandom's canon. And if you do not know what canon is officially part of like the story. Like for example, it is canon that Harry Potter lived with the Dursleys. It's fanon that Draco Malfoy wears leather pants. And so often fanon is described as very bad. And the reason it is, though, is because it often encourages recursive degenerate writing, because then tropes just become overused and they just get recycled and it gets worse and worse and it warps and exaggerates certain parts of the story. And it often this is the problem in my opinion, this is the worst part. It often reduces characters to a single unimportant facet of their personality instead of being the, deep, multifaceted characters that we know and love. But on the other side, there are definitely people who say that canon can be good, and there are a really large number of reasons for that. One of which is that fanon in general is important for the creation of culture, and a large amount of the classics, as in like mythology, legends, Shakespeare, stuff like that, because a lot of them come from just the retelling of stories, and you rewrite them with what is essentially just the popular fanon, and it's like a survival of the fittest for the story, and the most popular ones go on and just keep getting told and then retold and get more tweaked to be more popular. And it's also, I guess, why a lot of the exaggeration happens in a lot of older stories. Special thanks to Ninja Debugger for giving me most of that point. It also helps you flesh out characters and introduces new depths if used correctly. Like in the Worm fandom, there's a lot of characters interpretations that are actually benefited from the introduction of fanon, and I'll actually go through a few of those in a little bit. So now, examples. I'm going to start off with Armsmaster. Armsmaster, aka Colin Wallace, he has an insatiable drive for improvement as he tries to live up to his mentor hero, compromises his morals, and is offered redemption in an arc about, what is too far, how is he has a really nice character arc. However, in fanon, he is often portrayed as being socially awkward to the point where it's described as either critical fail on social skills Armsmaster, literally a robot Armsmaster, or needs to create a program to know how to interact with people socially Armsmaster. Yeah. Next up, we have Shadowstalker. Now, Shadowstalker is a very ineloquent, brash, and aggressive person, but not stupid. They will justify their worldview with analogies, and it's shown at multiple points during the story that she has trouble putting expressions into words. Shadowstalker in fanon is pretty much just hitched onto one passing analogy that was mentioned once. Essentially not being weak and just the predators versus prey, and you want to be predators, and predators can do whatever the hell they want to prey, because prey are weak. Yeah. Sophia is also, like, Shadowstalker, aka Sophia, is also one of the few characters with interesting fanon that benefits them. And one is that the way that she actually triggered is related to familial abuse. Moving on, we have Vista. Vista, or Vista, however you want to pronounce it. It doesn't really matter how you pronounce it in this way, I guess. But I guess some people might be a bit more anal retentive about that kind of thing. I don't know, honestly, I just do what I do. Moving on. Vista is the most child soldier-like ward. She is juggling an unrequited crush, the pressures of having to perform well, is frustrations at being treated like a child even though she's very experienced, and is rather isolated due to her age and experiences and worldview. In fanon, however, she only really shows up to deliver the line, "Finally another girl!" Sophia doesn't count, and then just disappears somewhere. I don't know where she goes. She just goes off to the neglected character corner. I don't know. Point is, she just gets reduced to that single irritating line. Yeah. Moving on, Clock Blocker. Yes, you heard me right, Clock Blocker. This is why you should read it first, because otherwise I just said something that makes no sense and sounds rather rude for obvious reasons. Anyway, Clock Blocker is dealing with his father's cancer, and in doing so, he makes himself the clown. He laughs to cover up the crime. It's like Pagliacci, except with less Watchmen references. He's shown to be one of the more pragmatic heroes. He's been shown at multiple points in the story to also have to work with villains to get the job done, like cooperating, not begrudgingly, which is good. However, in Fanon, he only shows up to make bad puns and deliver a loud cry of bullshit at whatever OP power Taylor has. As you can already start to see, some of these Fanon interpretations really reduce complex characters down to shitty things. Next up, we have Panacea. Panacea. Oh dear. She's struggling with balancing a feeling of constant inadequacy from not being able to heal however many people that are sick in the world. School, the most horrible crush in the entire series in multiple ways, and that's coming from a series with mindfuck rapings. And having a group of wandering murder hobos wanting to recruit her. She's a bit of a conflicted character who seems to believe that villains are villains and who can be more than capable of fending for herself. But in Fanon, you'd believe she'd been raised by the Dursleys with superpowers, more of a living embodiment of the concept of sad and self-pity than the emotion sadness in Inside Out. Moving on, Skitter. Taylor, the main character, the absolute utter determinator herself, who definitely deserves a skit of facts that exists somewhere on the internet. TV tropes. She's a tactical genius, using intelligence from her power in order to strategize and position herself. She will do whatever she needs to do to win and survive, and becomes increasingly ruthless as time goes on. And the sheer improbability of surviving with her powers increases. Very complicated character. Very interesting. And many arguments have been made that she is a very flawed character, which is, good because complexity. But in Fanon, she becomes the escalation queen, the OP munchkin. Her intelligence and ability to improvise becomes just overcoming hurdles a writer sets just to show how strong she is, rather than actually thinking and approaching things from a logical angle. Or she becomes the same sad sack of sadness that Panacea is. I don't know why they do that to characters. Moving on, Tattletale. It's a complex character with a soft spot for charity cases. Tattletale is stuck in an unfortunate position. It'll take all her wiles and powers to get her out. Also, like many thinkers, she relies on her power too much and hates not being the smartest person in the room. When she'll deliberately antagonize people so she's reassured she still has power. But in Fanon, instead of being a character who has bluff and bravado and tries to just stay as Miss Sherlock, she is the most annoying character in the fandom if she isn't just a walking exposition machine due to the power. Next we have Principal Blackwell. Principal Blackwell. A principal stuck between a rock and a hard place. Blackwell has too much shit on her plate and not enough screen time to do anything meaningful. Except in Fanon, you'd expect her to start her morning with the hearty breakfast of baby souls and the suffering of a student body. Piggott. Emily Piggott, aka Bigot, aka Piggy. The battle-hardened war vet confined to a desk job due to her injuries in the line of combat. She interacts with capes all the time, even though they are the reason that her life is a hellhole. Still, she manages to command the wards while the world's falling apart around them, and refuses parahuman healing out of some combination of stubbornness and fear. Except in Fanon, she is the biggest bigot in the story, which is ironic when you consider the local neo-Nazis literally have an incredibly improminent empire. Coil. A careful strategist, he makes sure to not rely too heavily on his power to succeed, but his hubris and need to control forewarns his downfall. But in Fanon, imagine the creepiest, sleaziest asshole you can. Now make him less sleazy, but you still can't shake off the feeling of disgust you get. Also, the exec of Fortress Constructions, which seems to exclusively make and bring us shelters. Saint. Trying to save the world in his own way, he feels that he is the only one who sees where the true danger comes from, and will disregard everybody that says otherwise. Except in the Fanon, he's defined less by who he is, and more by who he hates. To be fair, who he hates is a very complicated character, and it's really easy to just put him there as like a prop and just like, hey, you, beat this person up. Okay. Trickster. Unable to get home and stuck with friends in an unfamiliar place, he has to work to lead his ragtag group of friends to survive and try find a cure for his girlfriend. He never leaves her side. Except in Fanon, where if even the best laid plans of mice and men go oft awry, Trickster is so low on the totem pole, buying his plans from Acme would be an improvement. The PRT. The brave men and women who, while powerless, still try their best and give their middle finger to fate by fighting capes. While in Fanon, they are often confused with the Protectorate and made powerless, incompetent, or both. The Protectorate, the largest organized body of superheroes in the US, has a long, rich history dating back to almost the advent of capes in the world and are responsible for the safety of countless lives. However, in Fanon, they are often confused with the PRT and made powerless, incompetent, or both. Contessa. When every question you ask gives you a perfect answer, how do you use your power? For personal gain, for survival, or to try and save the world? Contessa struggles with these questions as she consoles herself about the sacrifices made in the process. But in Fanon, Contessa isn't a person. She's an extension of a power and almost useless without it. She uses it unquestioningly and follows the path to victory regardless. Cauldron, the shadowy organization that ensures the world hasn't completely imploded yet. Their ultimate goal requires them to lose their humanity in an effort to stop a god. But in Fanon, they are effectively the Illuminati, but completely ineffective. Browbeat. Wanting to do good, he signs up for the ward. His parents make him leave after seeing the danger he could be put in. But in Fanon, I can't remember who I was discussing. Who cares? Probably wasn't important. Moving on, Danny. Taylor's loving father, he struggles with being distant ever since his wife died. Along with trying to be the representative of a union in a dying city, Danny struggles to do everything and anything he can, but won't ever give up. But in Fanon, the only thing stopping him from being the most depressing, drunk, and worst father you've ever met is his lack of money to buy alcohol. Miss Militia, an orphan who escaped hell to come to America, strives to become the living embodiment of all that is great about her adopted home. And she's portrayed in Fanon as either America, fuck yeah, with infinite guns, or the empathic yin to Arms Master's socially incompetent yang. Lung. A half-Chinese, half-Japanese war-torn gang leader, he will become the strongest, he will rule, and he will get on his revenge on the lady in the hat. But in Fanon, it's either Lady Z-boys, the chair, are comfy, or I am a dragon, you are now Asian. Purity. A single mother struggling to break free of her old neo-Nazi affiliations, she still can't seem to break free from her roots or her prejudices. But in Fanon, she is the embodiment of a sweet single mother who wouldn't hurt a fly and will often be redeemed for better or worse. Glory Girl. A smart, strong celebrity starlet, she has hopes of being a leader, but can be too brash and often doesn't care about collateral or fighting. It is undisputable that she is a strong fighter, though, and knows exactly what she can and can't do. But in Fanon, she is a schoolyard bully who is overconfident, incompetent in an actual fight, and somehow gets away with too much shit. Scion, the all-powerful first cape. While being completely alien to all, he is intelligent and mourning the death of both his partner and purpose in life. While in Fanon, he is the golden idiot. Like talking to a brick, but somehow worse. The Slaughterhouse Nine. A group of living bogeymen, they ensure your nightmares come to life. Each a danger to society on their own. Under the guidance of their leader, they transcend evil and become envoys of chaos itself. But in Fanon, they are a group of wandering murder hobos that only survive due to plot convenience and cauldron shenanigans. Jack Slash. Leading a group of 8 monsters takes skill. Even more so when all you have is a knife and charisma. At any moment, they could kill each other or worse, you. But Jack Slash manages. Dancing on the knife's edge every waking moment, gambling with life on whether he outsmarts the monsters. But he knows that in the end, the house always wins, and in this case, life is the house. But in Fanon, he is the leader of the wandering murder hobos that only survive due to plot convenience and cauldron shenanigans. The Simurgh. One of the fearsome endbringers, the Simurgh is not feared for brute strength like its siblings. Rather, it is feared for its ability to see the future and manipulate everyone who hears its song into a ticking time bomb. Losing your mind is so much worse than losing your life. But in Fanon, what happens if a troll becomes omniscient and omnipotent? Also a literal troll on in-story forums. Don't ask me why. Madison Clements, the cute one. The social climber sticks with Emma and Sophia because they're the top dogs. If they ever go down, Madison will inevitably ingratiate herself with whoever takes their place. But in Fanon, she is the forgotten sidekick or a monstrous pervert, and I am not explaining the context behind that bit because that is weird. Okay. Now, there's also a bunch of tropes that have been prevalent, and these are rather distressing because they do have problems. It's rather distressing because they sort of warp a story. Not as much as the plot singularities, which I'll go over in a moment, but yeah. So these tropes, provided mainly by Ganarath, thank you, are as follows. There may be other ones I'm missing, but these are probably the most irritating ones that don't involve Fanon for the characters or that I've already gone over. First one, everybody's a lesbian. Enough said, this happens because shipping, yada yada yada, and also primarily female cars that everyone wants to pair the spares for, so what can you do? Next, the locker. People keep trying to show this traumatic event. None of them do it justice, as the point isn't the sickening and relentless horror of the situation. It's the repercussions, or lack thereof. Most fail to remember that the locker scene isn't actually shown in the original either. There's a reason why Bo didn't include it, people. The 3x locker duration. Somehow the only thing in common with all the times Taylor spends in the locker is that it's 3 of something. Doesn't matter if it's 3 hours or 3 days or 3 minutes. And finally, Aisha intends Winslow. There are more schools in Brockton Bay than just Winslow and Arcadia and Clarendon, people. You don't have to assume she goes to it just for plot convenience. There's nothing to support it either. Finally, we have 3 plot singularities, which are points that almost every story seems to go over. It's like the stations of canon, except much, much worse. Special thanks to Tiresias. The boat graveyard. Just a location, but if there's power testing, you can bet they do it because, it's the desolate place, nobody goes there. Perfect way to demonstrate how powerful Taylor is by, letting her destroy a few metal husks of a ship. Canary. To be fair, the entire point of her character is that she was railroaded into a shitty sentence, into a shitty jail because, well, that's an understatement, into a shitty situation just to prove a really fucked up point. But inevitably, most stories will get her out just because she's such a fan favorite. And Dina. This also is due to the fact it's absolutely unjust and unjust. This is also due to the fact it's rather unjust situation, and the fandoms do have a tendency to want to fix things, hence fix. But in this situation, it's mainly protecting you from Coil and bonus points if they turn it into Contessa 2.0. Now that's all the points I wanted to go through. Special thanks to Ninja Debugger, Kaylin, Shrin, Ridtom, Songless, Noxterm90, Ganarath, Tiresias, Bigo, and Daniel Estacado. I'll see you guys next week.